Hi, I'm Kara Stern. I'm the host of Snack Size PD, which is a professional development series for over Zoom teachers and principals. Today's topic is helping students cope with anxiety and stress, and I am so happy to welcome Phyllis Figel as my guest. Phyllis is both a licensed clinical and school counselor, a journalist, and the author of Middle School Matters. Phyllis, welcome. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Happy to be here.
So do you remember Lucy from Peanuts?
Sure.
She had a booth that said the doctor is in and 5 cents please. And so for 5 cents you could get advice. So I'm imagining that you are in that booth, and I feel like there should be a Zoom filter just for that. My image of you is in that booth, and then each of the 3 questions I ask you represents a new teacher seeking advice. Okay.
Okay, hold on one second. Can I find you a little bit later? So I am actually in a school. So I feel like I do have a sign outside my door for the 5 cents.
The doctor is in.
Yes, you never know when in a school setting someone will be stopping in. I did warn you that I wasn't sure if we'd get 15 minutes uninterrupted, but here we are.
All right. All right, so we'll go as quickly as possible so you can help the people in your school. All right, so teacher number one, Phyllis, I'd like to be able to give my students like some kind of positive or hopeful message about this pandemic. But what can I possibly say that's like true and that, but also might make them feel better about this really hard time?
So I think we have to understand that for kids, even small losses are big losses. I had a 2nd grader in here earlier today who was really feeling down about the pandemic, that it had ruined her life. And I said, tell me more about that. How has it ruined your life? And she said, I was supposed to get my ears pierced and I couldn't get my ears pierced. And that was really real for her. And I don't think we can help kids feel better about a situation if we don't first validate what's real for them and what's painful for them. And that sense that there's no normalcy is a big one, even if they can't articulate it that well. Older kids have an easier time articulating it. But to really focus on the concept of both and. So yes, it really is disappointing that you can't get your ears pierced. Has there been anything that you have discovered about yourself over the course of the year? Any insights you have gained? Is there something you did that helped a friend that was maybe having a worse day than you were, and helping them maybe take a deep breath and think about the positives without dismissing the negatives? And as kids get older, what I'm hearing, particularly among my 7th and 8th graders, is that the pandemic was an opportunity to catch their breath and assess whether all of that, what they almost call resume building, had been how they wanted to direct their energy. They didn't even realize they were burned out. I had one student tell me that it wasn't until the pandemic that she realized that relaxing didn't simply mean being less busy.
Wow.
And that is what I'm hoping we take from this, those lessons, that self-awareness that's so important for students to develop. And then on a more global scale, and this is more reassuring for the adults than for kids, there is research showing that kids who have to, or young adults who have to endure periods of uncertainty, actually have more joy, gratitude, and satisfaction later in life. Probably because they have learned that there are ups and downs and they had to forge those transition calluses.
Mm-hmm. That's powerful, both of those things. Thank you so much. Thank you. 5 cents. All right, teacher number 2. I am trying as hard as I can to be really attentive to student stress. I know how stressed everyone is right now. I also feel like part of attending to their stress is maintaining consistency and maintaining limits. And I'm not sure like where the line is. Help.
That's a great question. And, I am in the school. I am seeing that kids' energy levels are down. Even kids who didn't have attentional challenges before have attentional challenges now. I think we as adults can relate to that too. That brain fog is real. And so I'm seeing kids maybe flopping over their chairs in their prescribed space more, or feeling frustrated more quickly. Their nervous systems are taxed in a different way, especially this week. Daylight savings week has been brutal. That 1 hour really impacts especially the youngest kids. And so I think teachers need to pick their battles. the consistency, enforcing the rules, having boundaries. They want that, they need that. In the wake of a trauma, everybody needs that sense of routine, that predictability. But they also, in this there's this element of heavily choreographed days, and the sameness of the days is starting to get to kids. And so we also want to be introducing novelty and fun. We don't want to be so rigid that we can't break free from our routines. And if we do have a kid who is lying on the floor in their taped off space and they're not bothering anybody, and they're just trying to ground themselves in their own body, and they're paying attention, maybe even contributing to the conversation, maybe we let it go. If they're screaming or losing control, then maybe we pull them aside and say, I can see that you're really frustrated. I am not surprised you feel like screaming, and screaming is a good thing. It has its place, but this is not the time and place. So let's talk about when you can scream and let out your frustration.
That's great. I feel like it's always so helpful for me to have a script, you know, and sometimes you have those moments and you're just not sure. And if you hear somebody say, like, here's what you say, like, that makes a huge difference.
5 minutes, I promise I'll come get you.
Okay, last question, super fast. Teacher number 3. In the midst of all of this pandemic crisis, we're hearing about terrible acts of violence in the world. And kids are hearing about it. It's all over the media, social media. I don't know what to say to my students, how to make sense of any of these things, how to reassure them. Can you give me some pointers?
Yeah, you know, I think the worst thing to do is to say nothing. Because they are internalizing and hearing all of this, even really young kids. So we do want to make sure that we're acknowledging that something happened, and that our Asian students, our Pacific Islander students in particular, this week might be living in fear or having a lot of anxiety. And actually, the kids' friends also want to know what to say and how to support their friend. I heard a really interesting talk last night, and there were 2 pieces of information that were shared that I didn't know. One is that middle schoolers, 50% of the time, don't even know when they're hearing a racist comment. They can't even identify it. And also that kids as young as 5th grade are really feeling like, while schools do a good job at describing the history of racism, talking about the current events, they're not really giving them the language for how to talk to their friends about it. And they're uncomfortable, and they don't want to say the wrong thing, but they also don't want to say nothing at all. So I think it's important for us as adults to acknowledge the elephant in the room, acknowledge that these are hard conversations, and help them have those conversations. Tell them what to do if they're in a situation. If they hear somebody saying something racist or saying something ignorant, what can they do? You know, we might instruct them to make sure that they go up to the person who is targeted and say, are you okay? Can I help? Can I listen? How can I support you? We don't want them necessarily engaging, especially if it's not another peer, with somebody out on the street who's making some horrible comment, but giving them some tools in that moment to address what they're hearing, and also giving them some language to talk about the broader issues going on in society, which might simply be, you know, I watched the news and I saw that there are some really upsetting things going on, and I wanted to know if you're doing okay.
Phyllis, I feel like this was an incredibly helpful, like, handful of minutes. So I can't thank you enough. And I know I'm keeping you away from people who need you in your school. So I'm not going to keep you any longer, but I really thank you. And thank you to all the folks who are watching this. And please press the like button and the subscribe button and tune in again. And you can find the link to Phyllis's book, Middle School Matters, in the episode description. And goodbye and good teaching.
Thank you.